Hello and welcome to PCI Webinars. Today's webinar, Let's Talk Tweens, with Laura Tolman. Lauren received her Master of Education degree with a literacy emphasis from California State University, Fullerton. She has worked in libraries for 15 years, beginning as a page and progressively moving up in various positions. She currently works as the head of youth services for Springville Public Library in Springville, Utah, where she has been for the last 5 years. Springfield Library serves a population of 33,000 citizens in a growing community 45 minutes outside of Salt Lake City. It has been named Best of State for 5 years running, being acknowledged for its service to the community. Lauren's passion is to serve the youth of Springville and make them feel at home in their library. Coming to you now from Springville, Utah, it's Laura Tolman.
Good morning, everyone. It's a little bit early for me. I think most of you seem to be East Coast time, so we've been up for quite a while. Well, my presentation is called Let's Talk Tweens. How can libraries meet the needs of the underserved tween population? I presented this first at the Utah Library Association conference this spring, and since then, we've had even more positive changes happen in our youth services department. My intent today is to share with you how my library has been working over the last 2 years to create a welcoming environment for 8 to 12-year-olds by offering cool programs and fostering their love of libraries. There's me again. A little bit about me. Anne did a wonderful job introducing. One of the things that I think is pretty unique about me is I got my degree after I had already started working in libraries. I started as a page. I shelved first in fiction, which was not as fun as when I got to shelve in the children's department. And it was there that I found my love for youth services. I moved up to be a storyteller, eventually serving as a clerk and then as an assistant librarian, part-time in the children's department. Along the way, I earned my degrees. What was my favorite part about being able to work in all these different departments is I've gotten to connect with different types of patrons. I've gotten to see how libraries really work, and I was able to find my happy place in the youth services department. At Springville Library, I have worked here as the head of the children's department for 5 years. We currently have 4 part-time storytellers, 2 part-time assistant librarians that help me with younger children and family programs, and we were able to acquire a tween assistant librarian position, which I'll tell you more about later. If your library doesn't have a mission statement, I highly recommend getting one. We have always had one, but it's only been in the last 3 or 4 years that we've started really emphasizing our mission statement in everything that we do. So Springville Library's mission statement is to transform lives through a world of knowledge, discovery, and imagination. It's also really important to have your demographics. We are currently at 33,000 citizens, 37% of which are 18 years old or younger. So you have a very young population here in Springville. We're interested to see how that has changed when we experience the 2020 census next year. We want to see where we're growing and changing and if that has been consistent since the last records were taken. Before we get started, I'd like to know with a yes or no response, how many of you have programs and or a space that are specifically dedicated to tweens? So just in the little chat, yes or no, you do tween programs or have a tween space. Programs, yes, space, no. That's where we are currently trying to improve our space. Okay, so most of you are where we were at just a couple years ago. So let's go ahead and I'll change to my next slide. All right, we're gonna get started with who they are. For me, this was really important in starting to love them. I will admit they were not my favorite when we first started looking at services for them. So who are they? Tweens. We use this term pretty frequently, but I'd like to talk about what makes them so unique and even lovable. They are admittedly not always an easy age group to work with. They are 8 to 12 in the 3rd to 6th grade. So to get some perspective, they are no longer in story time. They're in this tender space between childhood and adolescence. Developmentally, I am paraphrasing all this from a great article that I link in the end that is called Parenting Tweens, and it's from childmind.org. It's a really wonderful article that helped me to get some perspective. So to paraphrase, developmentally, they are discovering their independence. Their personalities are changing quickly and often. They crave attention, which is no surprise to anybody who works with them. We can tell this from their volume, their hyperness in the library. Any attention is good attention for these kiddos. They are in this stage where they're beginning to put friends before family. Sorry, those are my blinds rolling up in here. Sorry for that noise for just a sec. They are starting to detach from needing their parents present at all of their activities. Tweens are experimenting with their identity. They're trying to find their place, what their interests are. They're also starting to care an awful lot about their peers' opinions and their influence. The most important element for libraries is that they are growing an increasing interest in social situations. They want to go to cool events and they want to be a part of their own thing. No more story time. And a lot of them are trying to go to tween nights because that's where the cool stuff is. So this little quote right here is from Britt. She is our very sweet tween part-time librarian. I asked her at one of our staff training days, what would you say to anybody who's working with tweens? Because it's not always easy to form that bond with them. And she said, they're weird and they can be awkward. But if you show them that you're weird too, you can form a bond. So it's all about for them not having this aura of perfection or the disciplinarian. Show them that you're weird, that you're on their level, and it can be quite easy then to form a bond with them. Another quote from this article about parenting tweens, I kind of liked this perspective of parenting them. We are this authority figure in their life, we're a leader, and in order to help them grow and love their community and their library, it helps to think of them in this way. So the author of this article writes, imagine looking at the world one way your entire life, and then having the way you perceive things, including your own feelings and thoughts and your place in the world, shift over the course of a few months. This is the exciting, sometimes frightening new territory your pre-adolescent is navigating every day. She's not the same little kid she was just a few months ago, but she still needs her parents' support and guidance. In order to set the stage for a good relationship with her as she moves into adolescence, you need to change the way you relate to her in keeping with the seismic shifts going on in her. So I'd like to ask at this point a question. As a librarian, how do you feel about tweens in your library? And it's okay to say you don't like them because they're loud, but please share your perspective on having tweens in your library in the little chat box. I forgot to mention as well, as they're developing, they're physically changing, which is also affecting their mental and emotional stability. Rebecca says, we have more tweens than children, and they really are an integral part of our program planning. Carla would like to attract more of them to library. Oh, good, Carla. Rebecca, that's interesting. In looking at our demographic, I really thought that we had more children than tweens, but they're coming out in droves now. Adriana says, I work at the bookmobile, but the teens we get are typically louder. Yes, 100%. And trying to show off, although teens can be that way also. I don't see to connect with their interests as much. Oh, I get you. You meet tweens. Yeah, it's hard to connect with their interests because they're weird. We're going to go into what they find interesting and the things they want to see at your library, and it's very different from those of us who are used to children and family programs. Kat says they've formed the most significant part of our youth services patron base in every library I've worked at. Staff ability to relate to them and communicate is hugely important. Yes, if your staff can understand the importance of relating and communicating with that age group, It goes farther than any planning that you can do. Oh, you got the whole point. Yes, they can become very loyal to the local library with investment in mutual positive experiences. This whole thing really started because we felt like we were losing a big gap there. We have these kids that love our library, families that love our library. And then before they get to teens and continue to be invested, there was this drop off. So we were worried about the longevity of their support. Okay, we'll take one more comment from Beatrice, who's typing. I love this feedback. Okay, she says we offer community hours for tweens. Oh, interesting. For 6th grade and above. So we were able to connect them with linking our services to their educational needs. That's huge. I love the idea of using them as your biggest advocate. All right, so we're going to talk about what the webinar goals are for today. Now that we've gotten to look at the basics of what our target audience is all about, let me outline what I hope you will get out of today. Participants today will be able to discover how to address the needs of their community's tween population, including addressing gaps in library services by age. You will learn to develop a tween programming and collection plan, and finally, understand the factors that go into creating a dynamic tween space. Also, this presentation is a bit of a history or a how-to on how Springville Library's tween department came to be. Previously, we didn't have any regularly scheduled tween-specific programs, and a few years ago, we saw where our services and offerings were lacking, and we were able to formulate a plan, try new things, and ultimately find success with tween programming and collections. In formulating this plan, we were able to demonstrate to city administration this services gap or this need in our community. We demonstrated our potential to address that need, and our director was able to create a part-time tween librarian position, as well as secure funds to create a new tween space in our library. So where we are currently is we have started to utilize what we have to make our tween space really great. Our director was able to get some funding to completely remodel that section. So we're in the planning phases of that right now, and it's pretty exciting. All right, this looks boring. When I initially saw this from my director, I was horrified. I do not think in this manner, but it turned out to be extremely important in formulating our plan. I've attached this. It's the second link under downloads. The document is called Community Ages and Services. So to start, as librarians, we are central to our community, and it's important to acknowledge where we may be lacking in serving them. Here's the magical document my director, Dan Mickelson, made each department head fill out. This was about 3 years ago, or a little less than 3 years ago. So what Dan did is he wanted to look at the big picture of where we were really serving the community and where we really needed some help. He took Springville's population breakdown from census.gov, giving each age group a column, and you can see that down there at the bottom, or if you download the document, it'll be bigger and you're able to fill it out yourself. Then he divided our services into rows. You can tell he's a very visual person. And so we were tasked with filling in the blanks. For better or for worse, we could see where we were not fulfilling our community's needs. In the first row, we have outside community services. So these are activities that your patrons participate in outside of the library walls. And for us, it was things like recreation or sports. You can see a picture. We have a cute little Boy Scout group. That's really big in our community. So anything that your kids, your patrons, your adults are getting outside of your walls. The second is library staff, and it is perfectly fine. You do not need one librarian for 0 to 4-year-olds, one librarian for 65 plus. Dan just wanted to see where staff were dedicating their time and energy by age group. So who on our staff was responsible for programs or collections for that specific age? The third column, or the third row, is library spaces. So what, if any, areas of the library belong to that age group? And that can absolutely be by collection, it can be by seating area, and so on. The fourth and fifth are library collections and then services and programs. So we wanted to see, did we have a proportional variety for the different age groups? Well, no one really loves to see their weaknesses, but this chart proved to be helpful for our entire management team, specifically for me. At the time, I thought my department was doing okay. We had really great numbers as a whole, but there were major gaps in tween services, both in staffing, space, programs, and collection for that age. And it helped to shape our plan and see where we could improve in serving the entire community. Are there any questions at this point? Right. So this sheet, as you look at your department, will take a little bit of time, and you're not going to address it overnight. Again, this is a years-long project, and we're just trying to address where our community really needs us. All right. So this is how I think I took his document and made it pretty. So I thought about what our library offers for each age group. And as I think it's pretty typical of kids section, so we're going to look at our kids 0 to 7. At my library, we have a lot of stuff for 0 to 7-year-olds. I will admit they're my favorite age group. I think they're fun. And this showed in our library. We have a Lego table, a dress-up corner. We have tons of great picture books and early readers. As far as programmings, we have a lot of story times. We've got great after-school programs for younger kids and monthly family nights that have lots of attendance. And across the library, over in the teen section, so that's our 13 to 17-year-old. We call it 7th grade to 12th grade because we know that some of our 7th graders are 12. There's a really cool teen section where we were seeing a lot of our pesky tweens gravitate towards. Over in our teen section, we have a Wii, board games, computers for gaming, and we have cool seating. We have booths that they can hang out with their friends in. Everybody wants to be there. They also have awesome teen nights. They do things like Nerf Wars and anime clubs, and there was really nothing for tweens. So between those two worlds, we are trying to help carve out a library experience for our 8 to 12-year-olds. We're offering monthly tween-only programs. We are curating attractive book displays, moving a few more computers to their section so that they can game too. And we want to get them out of the teen section. We want the teens to have ownership over their space as well. For them, independence is just as important as it is for these younger kiddos. And currently we're planning a total transformation of what is currently a space in between kids and teen sections. The first step in figuring out this bubble is to do what librarians do best. Get creative with what you already have. Take inventory of what is going on in your library. Move furniture, rearrange, decorate, make displays, try new programs, because experimenting is where the best ideas are going to come from. I'm going to read a quote from an article that I have linked at the end from School Library Journal. It's by Christina Kiesler. It's called "Libraries Should Embrace Tweens, Not Shun Them." She says, dedicated teen spaces have become fairly commonplace in libraries, but now middle school/tween spaces are becoming a trend. While having their own space can sometimes be a burden to manage, it's still an important and invaluable asset in the library. While it does corral noise and rowdy behavior into a single area, yay, it can do so much more than that. It's like putting up a big banner saying you are welcome here in your department. You are giving them, the tweens, a place of their own. And while the prospect of a tween-only space may frighten some librarians and administrators, it is worth the time and investment. All right, we're going to discuss now what tweens need from your library. And I've broken it down, and this is our secret formula, very simple and straightforward. As far as your collection goes, make sure you have popular fiction, high interest nonfiction, and graphic novels. And that on the left-hand side is part of our junior fiction section. We really believe in face-out displays here. They're a very visual group, and we want to make it extremely easy for them to see a book, to love it, grab it, and take it home. As far as the tween collection goes, you may call it junior or juvenile. We call it junior. I hate to say this. I know I will get some cringes. Do not spend big amounts of money on the boring classics. Tweens really don't care about your library having every old Newbery Honor book. Here they check out once a year, and that's because our 3rd and 4th grade teachers assign them, and that's the only time they move. Otherwise, we would be a museum for Newbery Honor books. I believe in variety. Absolutely, they will have their place in your section, but you want the majority of your real estate dedicated to books that are going to check out. You want to have those books, and you want them to be in those tweens' hands and in their homes. That's really what we're all about. That's the fundamental aspect of our positions. Tweens are looking for books and audiobooks that are eye-catching, that are popular with their friends. And this is stemming from their wanting to fit in their social circles. They also want books that feature things that they love. Nonfiction books on high-interest topics, such as nail art, movie guides, gaming manuals, these are guaranteed to fly off the shelves. Finally, junior graphic novels should be in their own section. So there's starting to be a really big market for these in-between graphic novels. Teen graphic novels should have their own section, adults should have their own section, and these junior grade ones should have their own space in your section in the library. One of the ways we helped to designate an area for a tween space was to strategically move and display graphic novels there. They, more than anything, draw tweens in. And again, it's super important to have these face-out displays. And there in the middle, we have one of our cute little tweens playing with Lego. On the right-hand side, that is our part-time tween librarian, Britt. She is posing with our secret weapon, food. Another secret we have is to have our activities be inspired by what the teens are doing. And finally, no parents or siblings. Tween programs for me took a lot of trial and error. And our secret formula ended up being those 3 things right there in the top right. Even if it's 5-cent Tootsie Rolls or cheap pizza, Little Caesars gives great discounts to community entities. They will even give you free breadsticks. So food doesn't have to break your bank, but it is necessary at your program. Next, tweens want to be like teens. Where I initially was making a mistake was I was just growing up little kid programs or family programs to make them age appropriate for 8 to 12-year-olds. And they see right through that. They want teen nights. They want to have cool programs just for them. They want to see what the older kids are doing, but have it meant for them. And that, again, makes teens happy as well because it gets them away from their stuff. Most importantly, because they're starting to assert their independence and develop their social skills, tween events, as much as possible, should be younger, sibling, and parent-free. Again, there's our sweet assistant librarian, Britt. It helps more than anything that you will do to have someone on staff who truly loves the tween age group and who is willing to go the extra mile to find what works for them. You see her there with a stack of pizzas, and that was one of our really simple programs. We called it Pizza and Pajamas. We had pizza and games for tweens only, and it turned out to be one of our most popular programs to date, about 150 tweens. It was also a surprisingly great way for us just to hang out with our 8 to 12-year-olds and get to know them. Okay, now we're going to talk about what tweens like. Using those simple events like the pizza and pajama party is a great way to open a dialogue between you and your 8 to 12-year-old patrons. In formulating a plan for tweens in your library, it's important to find out what they like and how they spend their time. And it's pretty simple once you get past their awkwardness and you've established a rapport with them. Just ask them, watch them. If they are able to voice their opinions and you plan around their interests, they will be invested in their library. The picture on the bottom left is a perfect example of us putting tween requests into action. That's one of my little friends, Eleanor. At the time of this program, slime tutorials on YouTube were all they were talking to us about. So we decided to do a tween slime night. We threw down tarps, we covered everything in cheap plastic tablecloths, and let the tweens have a blast experimenting with all different kinds of slime batches and ingredients. While I, as the adult in the situation, had to get past my nerves over having so much glue and borax flying everywhere, to the tweens, it was an insanely fun library memory. They felt free and they had fun. Other trends we've seen in our library, tweens absolutely love gaming, and what they're gaming on is our computers and our Xbox Connects. So that's what we have in the very top. We have Connects that are attached to the end of our shelves. They use our computers more than anything else. They love watching YouTube. One of the strangest things to me is that they not only like to game, they like to watch gaming tutorials. I don't know if anybody is seeing that in their library, but it confuses me. So they want to play the game and then they want to watch people play the game. They love these videos on YouTube for unboxing. People have sponsors. These YouTube stars YouTube stars have companies send them items, and tweens will for hours watch them unbox these sponsored items. I haven't quite figured out how to parlay that into a program, but we will figure something out. So there are concerns about all this media use and technology use, and how it may be dominating our young people's time. So I found this survey from Common Sense Media, and wouldn't you know it, a couple days ago, they updated their survey. So this is already dated. I'm curious to see how watching YouTubers play video games goes on into adulthood, says Adriana. That is very true. I have a little brother who's 24. I don't understand why he games and still watches. It's fun for them. Text support. Brian is typing. So what does this data tell us from Common Sense Media? This is how, Brian, what's your YouTube? Can we watch you? All right, so we're going to look at the data and see what tweens' favorite activities are compared to teens. It tells us they still love reading. We still have them. It's the number 2 thing that they like to do with their time. It also tells us that as librarians, we don't yet have to compete with phones. Many tweens don't have them yet. They're getting their media and gaming fix primarily from computers and TV. And one of those services is one that we provide at the library. So that's wonderful. So let's use this info. They are using media. We can still catch them with reading and music. They're not super into social media yet. So they have a short attention span because of this media use in their life, but we can still capture their interests by using technology, using popular trends, and always using colorful, new, creative, entertaining programs and collections. All right, now we're going to talk about our favorite thing as librarians, collection development. As previously mentioned, Springville Library tries to buy popular high-interest books and to do displays with many covers face out. We also pay close attention to what 8 to 12-year-olds are checking out. At this age, as we have discussed previously, they are developing their unique interests and they're growing in their independence. Their checkout choices are now theirs. Parents aren't checking out for them, so it's important to them to make those choices in items they're going to take home. We use our ILS to track what books are checking out most frequently. So in the top, you'll see a few different bookshelves of what were our highest circulated items in 2018. I'm curious to see how that will change for 2019, but what we have, you'll notice they're all super colorful and popular. We have in the first row our fiction selections. Wonder, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dork Diaries, the Spirit Animal series, and 27 years going, Magic Tree House are still checking out. What we do is we have the new covers and they continue to still check out. The old ones look dated, they don't circulate as much, so we buy the new and updated. It's one of the rare times when older books are checking out here. The second bookshelf is our junior nonfiction section. You'll see things that they love, Lego Ideas book, any Minecraft manuals. That's kind of going by the wayside in favor of Fortnite and other games, but they're still holding strong. The Who Is, Who Was series, I don't know if those are popular in other libraries, but we cannot keep them on the shelves. They're the kids' favorite for biographies. We love recommending them because they're fun and interesting, and they actually have a really solid base of information. We also check out quite a few drawing books, specifically Pokemon, and a lot of cookbooks, specifically that are tied into pop culture. So our Disney Princess cookbooks, our Star Wars cookbooks. The third bookshelf are our junior graphic novels. Again, they're all series. Amulet, Big Nate, Baby Mouse, The New and Improved Babysitters Club, and Lego Ninjago. So I have a question for our attendees. If you're looking at these bookshelves, what do these checkouts tell you about tweens' interests? They love things that are popular. These are books that their friends are reading. These are books that are being talked about. So what we can do with this information, buy more. Spend proportionally depending on what's checking out. Make sure that you have the newest of the series or by the same author, because tweens are coming of age in this time where almost anything is instantly gratified for them. If we don't have the newest book in a series or we don't have it promptly, we could lose them. So we try as much as possible to be on top of our game. And if we don't have it, we get it the next day or 2 days later from Amazon because we want to support their choices and books. Next, buy and display read-alikes. This is a really important aspect because if Wonder is checked out or the Diary of a Wimpy Kid number that they want is checked out, have the next best thing on hand. And finally, do fun program tie-ins. On the bottom left, you see our cute girl in front of a Choose Kind display. Seeing that Wonder was one of our, and still holding as one of our more popular books, we did a back-to-school display and passive program where we took the image from the book, which is its most recognizable aspect, and we had kids sign a Choose Kind display, or sorry, Choose Kind pledge that they were going to, above anything else this school year, choose to be kind to their peers. So by using the item that they love, we're able to parlay that into a cool passive program. All right, this one is really image heavy. These are some of our programs and events. So to begin, where can you look for ideas or where can you get started? Most of these ideas, most of these programs that we have done were straight from the tweens. So talk to them. They're so weird, but they're so funny. The very first tween program that I did, I remember it vividly. At the time, the game Watch a Mouth from the Ellen Show was going viral, and they thought it was the funniest thing, and one of them asked if we could do a program. I thought there's no way that I'm going to get anybody at this program where they're putting mouth guards in their mouth, making a fool of themselves trying to read these words. And with very little advertising, with one set of cards and one set of mouth guards, well, not one set, it was a set of about 25, we had a huge turnout at that program. So if they have ideas that they think are cool, chances are they'll bring friends and others will think it's cool too. We often look at what other libraries are doing. You can find inspiration and ideas and adapt them to your needs and budgets. We follow quite a few libraries on Instagram. I love Instagram because you can bookmark your ideas for later and you can organize them into different albums. You can pin ideas on Pinterest. And what is even more important is to pay it forward. Share your ideas. Other libraries love to see what you're doing. Share what worked, share what was cool, share what maybe didn't work so successfully, but most importantly, take pictures of your events so that you can have this illustration of the cool things that you're doing. And don't be afraid to try and fail because you just might succeed at it. So what we do in our tween department is we try to have one passive program, one big event, and one smaller scale program every month. We're first going to talk about our passive programs. So the idea of passive programs is that they take place in section in the library. They need very little supervision. You can put the supplies out. It basically is self-explanatory and runs itself throughout the day. And what these activities do is they help drive traffic to the tween section, making it a destination. They know now, because of our passive programs, there's always going to be something fun to do there. It invites them to spend time in a space that is just for them. So some of our passive programs that we've done, the easiest is a post-it wall. We'll pose a question or ask them to create a meme and just let them have at it. It will take some monitoring. You will get those sneakers who put some obscene things or things that they think are funny and they're not. So just take them down, don't make a fuss about it, but let them continue to express their creativity. We have done origami. We have several books in our nonfiction section on origami, and we put the paper out and they can take the books home. They can work on them in the library. We put out some board games. We haven't yet had any, knock on wood, any problems with missing pieces or broken parts. Finally, we have Lego building days. I know Lego can be expensive. How we built our collection is we first asked for small donations from patrons. If they could spare a baggie of spare Lego bricks, we took them. We were also able to get funding from our friends organization, and it doesn't take a lot. We started out with 4 or 5 shoebox Rubbermaid totes, and we put them out, and they have so much fun. Just let them build what they want to build. I'm going to skip over to our smaller scale programs for our next section. We like the benefits of a smaller program, such as it's more one-on-one time with the smaller groups. You can do more involved activities or concepts. So our coding lab we do for about an hour. We have 10 to 15 kids show up. We reserve our computer lab specifically for that time. And they work on projects using Scratch from MIT. And it also, more importantly, appeals to some tweens more than the large noisy programs. So you'll see in all of these, there is something for everyone depending on their interests or their social skills or what their social needs are at that time. We also have a Pokemon club. I don't know if anybody does that in their library. The kids bring their own decks and their own cards. The only thing that we monitor at those events is trading. I have this fear of some 12-year-old taking advantage of an 8-year-old and taking one of their more expensive cards. So we ask that all trading is approved by parents on both sides. And finally, our big events. This is where we have a ton of fun. Now, I'll go from the left-hand side. That was one of our Halloween programs. It was zombie survival games. And what they did at that one is we drew zombies on balloon targets, and the kids had to shoot the zombies with Nerf guns. We played undead tag, and we made tombstone cupcakes. This is one that we adapted specifically from a teen program. We made it less scary, less intense, and we downplayed the undead part of it, the gore of it all. In the middle, we had our glow-in-the-dark dance. This was this previous winter. We wanted to have a program where they could get all of their wiggles out and all their squirrelies out from being cooped up all winter. We had very simple, they made glow slime. They painted their face with glow-in-the-dark paint. And we have a disco ball in our library, so we just shut off all the lights and they had fun glowing in the dark and dancing with the disco ball. And finally, this third one is maybe one of my favorite programs that we've done. It is our Trash and Show. This was almost entirely free. Every kid's workroom has an accumulation of leftover supplies. You can gather interesting trash from your recycling bin. For about 2 months, we just collected things that we thought were funny and interesting or that were left over from programs. Oh, yes. Plants vs. Zombies is coming back, Brian. We love it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so for our Trash and Show, we had all this just assemblage of garbage, things that we were going to throw away or things that were leftover supplies from programs. And we gave out prizes for best accessory, best ensemble, most unique outfit, etc. So we set up a red carpet in our events room, turned on some music, we had photo shoots, and they laughed so much. It was like all of their inhibitions were gone, and they just had a blast making trash out of garbage. Are there any questions at this point? Are you all asleep? All right, let me go to our next slide. So we're now going to talk about perhaps the most important takeaway that I hope you get from this webinar. And that is to treat tweens with the same care and attention that you would any other patron. All right. So don't let your reaction to these loud, goofy button pushers be to discipline them. Explain your library's rules, set boundaries, but still be patient and welcoming, and encourage them to have fun and use their community center. Think about creating a positive association of the library for them. Tweens are more likely to behave better this way than if they're met with sternness and irritability. As always with patron service, put yourself in their shoes. So this quote is from Library Should Embrace Tweens, Not Shun Them, which I quoted earlier. It's also linked in the last slide. They come into a library possibly to get away from reality, escape into a book, or just hang out with friends. They don't need another place where adults are critical of what they look like, how they talk, or what they're wearing. Enjoy the fact that they choose to be in your library and take advantage of this with targeted programming, reader's advisory, and as one of our participants said earlier, this is a chance to build solid relationships with future library advocates. So in the pic on the left, we have our librarian, Britt, and in this crowd of over 100 crazy tweens, she took the time to talk with each of the small individual groups. And that makes all the difference in making them feel safe and welcome. Take the time to bond and do the activities with the kids instead of hovering over them or correcting them. That will go a long way in bringing those walls down between you and your tween patrons. In the second picture, that's Britt and I and a group of our tweens. They did a passive program where they made yarn toys for cats at our local shelter. What was cool about that is we just hung out with them and we just did them. We didn't instruct them on how to make them. We didn't monitor their messes. We didn't overly correct any of their behavior. We just hung out with them in the section. So most importantly, by understanding their needs, by conceptualizing and implementing a tween plan, you can help these special patrons find their place in the library and eventually in your community as they grow to your services. So are there any questions at this point? That's, I think, my last slide. Here are the references. I absolutely think you need to start with your census facts and you need to read all those fun articles. All right, any questions for me? Or any ideas that you'd like to share? I love hearing what other libraries are doing for their tweens. All right, Beatrice says, oh, mindful art, STEAM programs, book discussions with crafts and book discussions related to movies, food always provided. Absolutely. I love a good book to movie tie-in, as there's been quite a few recently. I love mindful art. You'll have to message me with some of your ideas for mindful art. Okay, Adriana, what would I recommend for programs for small libraries? So any of these can be adapted to any size. We started with games. We didn't have a budget for these programs at first, so we borrowed from teams, we borrowed from the kids section. One of, I think trash and show is the way to go. We didn't spend any money on that program. So take anything in your kids' workroom that's left over, save your trash, any bags, boxes, wrappings, and they can make some really interesting things. It encourages their creativity as well as using what you have at your, no pun intended, but what you have at your disposal. And Coding Club is also free. We use Scratch from MIT. Pokemon Club, if they've got the decks, have them bring them and play. Cat Green said, oh, cosplay. Okay, I'm stealing that idea. Cat Green says we supplied materials to create cosplay successfully before too. That is super fun. Was that tween specific, Kat? Or did you invite everybody? It's funny when you hear these ideas, I'm like, why didn't I think of that before? We're going to do that. We're trying to do a Comic Con or a Pop Con in the spring, and I think that would be fun for our 8 to 12-year-olds. They're the most interested. What was the most popular fandom? Anime. We've been thinking about doing an anime club. The teens do one. We're thinking about doing some kind of manga, anime, or graphic novel program for the younger kiddos. That's one I don't know a lot about, so that's one I'll have to research. Oh, an escape room. That's a lot of work, Beatrice. Good on you. Dungeons and Dragon programs, anime candy programs. Yep. Anything that they can create and that we don't have to eat. I love it. Whenever we do a cupcake decorating program, we buy these big vats of frosting from Sam's Club, and they just go at it. Reading to therapy dogs, the kids love that. We have that as well. We have a little therapy dog named Winston. It's great for any age. We've had adults come, we've had tweens come. It's a vats of they are there. I think it's in some kind of 5-gallon bucket, and it's so unappetizing, but they love it because it's sugar. You can be creative. So with reading to therapy dogs, reach out to your local shelter, or a lot of places will have therapy dog or therapy animal organizations, and they will do it for free. They're certified to behave well, and they're trained to just sit and listen to the kids read. It's a really good opportunity for them to practice those literacy skills. We actually got that idea from social media. We saw that and stole it. Oh, a pirate campaign. Arr. Well, thank you for these ideas, everybody. Are there any last questions as we kind of wrap up this webinar?
You're doing a great job on questions, Lauren, so I was just leaving you to it.
Oh, thank you. This is my first webinar, friends, so I was a little nervous about filling the time. I did this presentation, as I said, for the Utah Library Association, but I only had to fill half the time, so I was a little nervous about stretching it out.
No, you did great.
Oh, thank you. So here's my last slide. Please don't hesitate to email me. Share your ideas of what works for you. We're all still in progress here. My email is ltolman@springville.org. You can reach me at 489-2723. I also run our social media for the library, so if you want to shoot me a DM, we're on Instagram and Facebook. Please follow us, share your ideas with us.
And if there are any final questions, you should get them in now if you have them.
Oh, thank you, Adriana. Oh, do you want to know my secret? It's Google Slides. They did all the templates for me. And I just put in my information and pictures from our program. So it's slides.google.com. All kinds of templates. They divide it into fun ones, informational ones, boring business ones. Now that this was fun for our tween age. I always like interesting graphics to look at.
All right. Well, I want to thank Lauren for a great presentation. Lots of good ideas. I don't know if you probably didn't see it because I think we were in private chat, Lauren, but Brian and I were chatting back and forth about the fact that we didn't even know what a tween was until we had to do this program. So that tells you where we are.
Well, now you know.
Well, we know. Yeah, we'll know how to stay away from them.
Phase between kids and teens. Oh, thank you, guys. All right. I hope everybody has a great day. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Well, thank you very much for putting this together, and thank you all for your active participation. It always makes it more interesting when you do that. And we were happy to see you here. We hope to see you again at another PCI webinar. Have a great afternoon, everybody.